afternoon, good evening, everyone. Um, Thank you so much for joining us today for this Study in Japan webinar. My name is Dominique and I work for Cialfo. I'll be your host tonight, and I'm joined by three panelists from three universities based in Japan. So with us tonight, we have Raynor joining us from Ritsumeikan University. Raynor's from Canada and was an exchange student at Ritsumeikan University. So he'll be able to tell you about his experience studying and now living in Japan. We also have Han from Waseda University. Han is from China, working for Waseda and also graduated from Waseda. And finally, we have Joy from Temple University in Japan. Joy is from Hawaii and studied at Temple in Japan as well. So we have really experts who are going to talk to you about their own universities, about studying in Japan, and also who can answer any questions about being an international student in Japan. So just to let you know a little bit about the flow of the event today, we'll start with a quick introduction to each of the three universities. So you'll have some slides to learn about those institutions, and then we'll follow with a panel discussion. So we have pre-prepared questions that we'll be going over. But if you want to ask any questions, feel free to use the chat function or the Q&A function to add your questions as well. So with that, we'll be sharing our slides now. So Ayushi, if you can share the deck, and we'll start with Raynor, who's going to introduce Ritsumeikan University now. So Ayushi, if you can just get to the Ritsumeikan slides.
Okay, well, yeah.
Raynor, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dominique. Yeah, so my name is Raynor Friesen, and I'm from the International Admissions Office here at Jamaican University. And yeah, it's a real pleasure to, be here and speak to everyone today. As you just heard, yes, I'm from Canada, but I first came to live in Japan as an exchange student. During my university time at the University of British Columbia, I came over on what was supposed to be a one-year exchange, but my experience was so good that I actually had to extend it. And I ended up living in Japan for 2 years at that time before I had to go home to finish up and graduate. Um, as you would know, I came right back to Japan pretty soon afterwards, and I've been here about, I guess, 11 years since then. But because of my experiences, I can speak firsthand to, student life in Japan, how great it is, and also the kind of student support that I saw at Ritsumeikan University. I really do think it's very special. So that's enough about me for now. Now I'll talk a little bit about the university, and so if we can move to the next slide there, thank you. Yeah, so Ritsumeikan University, it's a long-established, comprehensive private university. It was founded in 1900, and it boasts and it boasts 16 colleges and 21 graduate schools across a wide range of disciplines. Among all the programs, there are 5 programs that are English-based, meaning no Japanese required for these. I'll touch on more details on these later on, but just know that kind of field-wise, we range from liberal arts, international relations, policy science, and computer science, information system science. At over 37,000 students spread across 3 beautiful campuses in Kansai, we have the third largest student body in Japan, which I think translates to, excellent resources to support our students with. Speaking of Kansai, you might not necessarily know where that is, but when I say Kansai, I'm talking about, Kyoto, Osaka, kind of Kobe and Shiga, and some of the other areas around that in Japan. For kind of scale, maybe, I mean, you've maybe even been to Kyoto before or Osaka, but we're about 2 hours away from Tokyo by bullet train. But I really do think the Kansai area is an excellent place to be a student. You have all these cities and regions that are pretty close together. Like from Kyoto Station to Osaka Station is 28 minutes if you don't mess up the train. But each region really does have its own kind of culture, flavor, right? Very different cities with, even people who have different ways of speaking, different foods that are popular. And so it makes, I think, student life quite unique out here because you can get all these experiences in a very, very small region. So with this next slide, I'll introduce Kyoto a little bit and our campus in Kyoto. This is the Kinugasa campus. It's the oldest ever campuses. If you're familiar with Kinkakuji in Kyoto, the Golden Pavilion, maybe you've seen a picture of it. You can actually walk to our campus in about 15 minutes from there. Of the colleges located there, International Relations has two programs that are completed. They're done fully in English. You probably know Kyoto as this maybe a potential tourist destination. The ancient capital of Japan, a city of really traditional culture, traditional arts. And it is all those things. It's special for all those things, but you might not know how great of a student city it also is. They say about 10% of the population in Kyoto is university students. And I think from where my home is, I could walk to maybe three universities in 30 to 40 minutes. So there's so many great things to do here beyond what you might just know about it being the traditional city. Of course, next door to Kyoto, on this next slide, you will see our Osaka Ibaraki campus. This opened in 2015, and it's had new additions even built onto it that opened this past April. It's the newest ever campuses, and it's one of the most modern campuses in Japan. Of the colleges located here, policy science, global liberal arts, and information science and engineering offer programs that are done fully in English. It's in a very convenient location, very close to a main JR station. From there, you can be in Kyoto Station in about 20 minutes, or you can be right in downtown Osaka in about 10 minutes. So yeah, I look forward to speaking to you and with our other panelists over this next little bit here, and I think I'll pass things off to our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raynor. And we have Joy now talking to us about Temple University Japan campus.
All right, guys. So I'm from Temple University Japan campus. My name is Joy. As Dominic mentioned, I'm originally from Honolulu, Hawaii. I came straight out of high school, right to Temple University Japan campus. Graduated in 4 years, actually with a double major, so I got to study in two fields. And I really enjoyed my time as now I've been working for TUJ as what we call it, for about a little over a year now. All right, can we head to my first slide? All right, so a little bit of a information dump, but basically we have a few buildings in a cute little area called Setagaya-ku. Um, we're at a station called Sangenjaya, which is only two stations away from the very, very famous Shibuya and the Shibuya crossing, right? So really awesome location within Tokyo. But on the right-hand side, we are also opening a new Kyoto campus very, very soon. So that will be a study abroad only campus. You won't necessarily be able to graduate from there, but you can definitely spend some time in the study abroad area as well, um, both in Tokyo and Kyoto. Uh, Temple University Japan campus is 100% English speaking campus, so you don't need to know any Japanese coming up. Of course, it's always a great opportunity to learn Japanese while you're in Tokyo or Kyoto. Great options to travel around as well, like Raynor mentioned. Um, and on top of that, we are very unique in the sense that our nationality breakdown for our students specifically is right now about 36% Japanese, 34% American, and the rest from over 70 plus countries all over the world. So very, very diverse student population. Uh, all right, next slide, please. So just some fast facts about TUJ. Again, information dump, my apologies. We can always come back and watch the webinar at a later time. But typically speaking, we have 12 majors, 10 minors, 6 certificate programs, so lots of different options that you can study at our university. Again, all of these are 100% English speaking. Some will require you to learn a language, some don't. Really depends up to you. But we have been established in Tokyo since 1982. We are the oldest and largest foreign university in Japan. Again, lots and lots of students from all over the world, and we do have many global partnerships all over the world. Temple itself has a campus in Philadelphia, Rome, Italy, and again, Tokyo and Kyoto starting in January 2025. So lots of different places to explore, partnerships all over the world, outside of the Philadelphia, Rome, and Japan areas. So we've had students study abroad in many, many other countries as well. Not only is our student, you know, population very, very diverse, we also have a faculty nationality that is even more diverse, I would say. 25% Japanese, 35% American, the rest again from many, many different countries all over the world. Uh, Employment rate right after graduation is also very high, which is amazing considering that our student population is very, very diverse. We're about 96.6%. And we do have very small class sizes, so about 26 students on average. When I was a student, my largest class was maybe 6 students, and my smallest class was 6 students, excuse me. And my largest class was really only about 40 students. So not really big lecture halls, very interactive, very American-based education system. Next slide, please. And speaking to the culture of our university specifically, one, we're in Tokyo, so it's a great option, to go and explore Tokyo. Each station is kind of like its own city, it's got its unique charm. But we also have our dean, who is very, very student forward. He takes the students whitewater rafting every summer. Um, he does these dean's distress days where he gives out free food. We've had many a guest speakers, namely one Konotaro on the left hand side in the middle. Um, he actually spoke at my graduation. Very, very awesome speech. We have career fairs, community engagement, lots of different activities that you can do, and we do have great offices all over TUJ helping the students with whatever they need, whether it be like planning your schedule. If you want to just do classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, maybe have Tuesday, Thursdays to do some part-time work, definitely an option. And we also have great student activities like when the dean takes students out for whitewater rafting or a samurai sword workshop. Lots of different options for you to experience Tokyo, Japan, Kyoto soon to come as well. So, I mean, Temple University is a great option, especially if you want to get your American degree right in the heart of Japan. All right, that's it from me.
Great. Thank you so much, Joy. And we're moving on to Han to talk to us about Waseda University.
Hey, thank you very much, Dominic. So, hello everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. And this is Han from the International Office of Waseda University. So, it's really an honor for me to speak to anyone right here and to make a very brief introduction about myself. I did my bachelor program in China, and actually I learned Japanese in China. And after that, I came to Waseda University for my master program, and I studied international relations here. And after my graduation from master program, I just come directly to Waseda University as a staff. So my life in Japan is Waseda, and Waseda is the whole life of me in Japan. So that's all for me. So let's move to the slide about the Waseda University. So Waseda University is located in the very central Tokyo. As you can see, we are located at Shinjuku, which is a very heart, very central of Tokyo. And from our campus, will be very convenient for you to access to any place in Tokyo. For example, Skytree or any other airport, the Narita Airport, Haneda Airport, and or any other very interesting places in Tokyo. Okay, so we have already. Would you please move back to the yes to this slide? So I will give you three aspects to introduce about Waseda University. The first one will be size and diversity. Waseda University is home to 55,000 students, making it the second largest university in Japan, with alumni of 668,000 people actively making an impact worldwide. It is one of the largest in the country. So on top of that, Waseda has an incredible number of international students, which you can see right here, around 8,000, which is the highest among all Japanese universities. So next aspect I would like to talk about is the employability. So when it comes to the employability, Waseda speaks for itself. Our graduates are consistently ranked among the best in the QS ranking, so showing just how much companies value our Waseda education. Okay, so the last but not least, and also would you please to the next slide, I would like to talk about the aspect of the pride and the attachment to the university. Waseda isn't just a place to study, it's a community that people deeply love. Both current students and alumni take pride in being part of Waseda, and the passion for Waseda events like Waseda festivals and sports is one another level. So in fact, the Waseda Festival is often called the best university festivals in Japan because of its amazing quality and scale. And what's unique about Waseda is how students actively shape the university's future. They work with faculty and staff to improve the school, offering ideas and perspectives that only students can provide. Waseda has set up systems to make sure the students, their voices are heard and their proposals are put into action. Okay, so that's all for Waseda.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Han. Okay, if you can remove the slides, Ayushi, perfect. Thank you. And we'll now move into our panel discussion. So I already see we have a few questions in the Q&A. We'll answer them in a moment, but we'll start with some other questions. But if you have any questions you'd like to ask our speakers, remember to put them either in the chat or in the Q&A section. And I'm going to start with my first question, and I'm going to direct that question to Raynor first. What do you think sets Japan apart as a destination for higher education?
Yeah, I mean, so I've got a pretty good list there actually. But for starters, I'm going to go kind of broad there. But the whole country does have a very strong commitment to education. Japan has, I think, the highest number of Nobel Prize winners of any Asian country. Along with that, there's a growing diversity of English-based programs, meaning you don't necessarily need to speak Japanese to get a degree here. Every university here is evidence of that, and there's more beyond just us, right? And I think along with that, we're seeing that kind of internationally aware graduates, graduates with more and more diverse backgrounds are in strong demand, in Japan and abroad, especially as, companies both in Japan and abroad, kind of shift their focus, more and more international, more multicultural. Touching on some other points, the country is, I think we'll touch on this a bit more later, but, surprisingly affordable, I think more than, many might expect. We can go into those numbers later.
Great. Perfect. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I have kind of a similar question, a follow-up question for Joy, but why should students consider Japan maybe over studying in the US, studying in the UK, Australia?
Sure. Personally, my experience, I think one, especially if you're going to a foreign country, I guess this kind of goes for every country. You get to explore who you are as a person, you get to grow up. But in Japan specifically, especially if you go through, especially these universities, like they have the resources to help you, get your foundation in Japan. Especially if you want to stay in Japan for long term, or even if you don't, getting a degree at any of our universities, or even, big name universities in Japan will help you further your education going forward. It'll help you learn how to communicate with other cultures, things like that. So I think it's a great opportunity to consider Japan over, especially if you're interested in it, over any other country.
Great, perfect. Raynor's touched upon this just a little bit, but my question is for Han. Do students need to speak Japanese to study in Japan? I know you study Japanese, right? You're on mute, Han. But is it needed?
Actually, we usually advise the student to have the basic knowledge, ability of Japanese, in order to make your life and your study much more smooth in Japan. So basic Japanese ability will be very highly recommended. But you will have the chance to learn Japanese from beginning after you come to Japan.
but your degrees are all in English, as you mentioned from the slides, correct?
Yes, we for Waseda, we have 13 schools, and 6 of them are providing English-based degree program.
Perfect. So just a show of hand to our panelists, do you offer Japanese language support to students? Yes, yes, and yes. Okay, perfect. And you all have degrees in English as well. Yes? Yes, perfect. I see we have a ton of questions in the chat. So I'm just going to move to some of these questions. Let's see. So admission process, we'll talk about that in a moment. Some questions about majors that are available, quite a lot about technology. We'll move to these in just a second. Let me see. Okay, so quite a few questions are about entry requirements and programs. So I think we're going to talk about entry requirements, given that we have a lot of questions about entry requirements. Can I please ask all of you to answer basic questions? So what kind of qualification do you accept? Do you accept the IB, for example? Do you accept local curricula, let's say from India? Do you require English tests? What kind of grades are you looking at? So I'll start with Raynor, if you can go over some of these points for Rita Macon.
Yes, so first of all, kind of on the broad level, there's what we call like the university entrance eligibility, and these are actually laid out by like the Ministry of Education in Japan. Of course, I'll speak for us, and then university you have to check with them individually. But basically, if you're graduating from like the 12-year, local curriculum, you meet the requirement that way. If you'll have an IBDP, you can meet the requirement, an A-level qualification to meet the requirement. There's a long list of international accreditations that your high school can have to meet the requirement too. WASC, CIS, NASC, a couple others too. Beyond that, of course, we are looking at your transcripts, application essays, the letters of reference. There are English requirements, but there are also ways you can meet the requirement without submitting scores too. For details, I won't go into more than that right now. But for details, we have our application handbook. I think we all have those, and so potential applicants can look at those for the university that they're interested in and get all the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's available on your profile on Cialfo as well. But can you give us, are you sharing any range of type of entry requirement, let's say for IB, like what would be the range of IB points you'd be looking at?
Yeah, so we don't share a specific range for any curriculum. Of course, you have to meet the requirement, like the entry requirement, the qualification. But after that, it is an overall assessment where we are looking at, of course, your grades, essays. For most of our programs, there's an interview stage, an online interview. And so if you're interviewed, then that's taken all together, holistically and used. So there's not a specific range that I can offer.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to Joy, tell us about getting into Temple.
Sure. So very basically, our application process is the same for all students, regardless of where you're from, what kind of education you've had. Typically, we do ask for certain documents depending on where you're from, but other than that, typically it's going to be an application form. If you are coming straight out of high school and applying for the fall semester, you can also apply via the Common App. Highly suggest if you are also looking into other American universities. We do have our regular application as well, which you can apply for that for our fall, spring, or summer intake. Additionally, you're going to need a personal statement, 250 to 400 words about why you want to go to Temple University, Japan, or in Japan in general. If you are a non-native English speaker, then we do require some form of English proficiency tests listed on our website with the minimum scores as well. You pay the application fee, and we also need some form of high school transcript. If you're coming as a transfer student from a university or a college, we can also accept transcripts from them as well and try our best to see if you get any credits transferred over.
Great. Do you require the SAT or ACT?
Sure. Yeah. So actually, we're test optional for SAT and ACT. You can use that as an English proficiency waiver, or like you can submit scores instead of submitting like a TOEFL or an IELTS. Um, what else? Oh, for IB, because I see a lot of IB questions in the chat in the Q&A. Typically we're looking for a 30 and above, and that would be very, very competitive to get in. But yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Han, how about Waseda? What do you need? What kind of grades are you looking at?
Well, I think it's quite similar to the two university in Boston as well, because we are also very open to the all curriculum in the world, including the local curriculum in each country. In high school, if you graduating from a local high school, then you will be able to apply. Of course, we also accept the international background student, including IB student, A level, or any other international curriculum. So I would just give you a few ideas to check our application guideline very carefully, because it really depends on which curriculum you are doing, and the document will be totally different. And for example, if you are doing the AP course, then the SAT will be basically necessary. And if you are applying for the Faculty of Science Engineering, then the AP will be necessary additionally. And also we have very specific requirements about the AP course. So just make very full check about our application guideline.
Perfect. A question for all of you. Do you accept predicted grades, or do you require final grades for students to apply?
Maybe I can start there.
Yeah.
So for example, for those who are doing A levels or the IBDP, um, if they haven't graduated at the time of application, then actually we require submission of predicted grades for those curriculums.
So predicted grades are fine.
Yes.
You accept them, and then you'll need the final transcript down the line.
At the time of application, we actually we require the predicted grades. Yes.
Perfect. How as well? Do you make offers based on predicted grades?
Yep, same for us as well. Predicted grades are required. Basically, we need some kind of documentation of your grades from high school, and from college. Then with the predicted grades, we will ask if you do get into our university, we will ask for your final transcript or your final grades, before you actually start as a student at our university.
Perfect. And Han, is it the same, or do students need final grades to apply to Waseda?
Yeah, it's quite same here. And a predicted grade will be available during application. But if you submit the predicted score during the application, then you will be asked to submit the final grade during the application process, during the admission process.
Perfect. And question, does any of you accept Duolingo as proof of English proficiency?
I do.
You do? Waseda, no. Ritsumeikan?
For Ritsumeikan University, program to program requirements differ, including like score requirements, but most of our programs do accept Duolingo.
Okay, perfect. Great. We also have some questions about local curricula. I think it's maybe a bit too much detail to go into those, but we will maybe put in the chat pages where students can find information as well, if students are applying from Turkey or from India, making sure that they can find the relevant entry requirements.
Can I hop in real quick?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to email our offices to ask questions for specific country credentials. That's what we're here for. Also, my university specifically, because we have students from so many countries all over the world, we will typically look at whatever curriculum you are taking currently.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much. I want to move to another question, which is a little bit about the costs of studying in your universities and the cost of living in Japan. I'll start with you again, Raynor, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so of course the program costs differ from program to program by pretty I mean so most of our like a single degree programs kind of for those details it's better for you to actually look at our website exactly. But for living costs I can talk about that right now. Basically based off of like surveys that we've done for student body, like monthly kind of like living costs for our students has been from like around like 90,000 yen to excuse me, like 130,000 yen. It's like if I were to put it like in US dollars with, you know, current-ish exchange rates, we're talking like $608 to like 883 per month. Of course, that varies with the living style, right? I've talked to students who go above that quite significantly too. But in terms of living costs, it's yeah, surprisingly affordable here, and you can find lots of very affordable like rent here too, in addition to our dormitories.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to Joy, is it the same cost to study at Temple in different locations, or does it vary from country to country?
Yep, so that definitely varies. So I think our main campus out of state, so basically any international students as well will be like over 40,000 US dollars. Our Japan campus, however, is much, much cheaper. We're 1.71 million yen for on average for the year, or about 11,000 US dollars for the year. So much, much cheaper, but you're still getting an American degree. As for estimated living expenses, it really depends on, the individual themselves. But I would say if you budget about, you know, you could probably do it 1,000, 2,000 a month is probably very, very, 2,000 US dollars a month is very, very reasonable, in my opinion.
Great. Thank you so much. Great to know that it's much cheaper to study at Temple Japan than it is to study in the US. How about Waseda? How much would students pay for a typical undergraduate degree?
Well, even we are private university, and even we are located in Tokyo, but I think it would be much more cheaper if more than if you study in the US or UK. So we usually give a general idea about the total amount of every year. So it will be around 20,000 to $30,000 every year, including everything, including tuition fee or any other expenses.
Okay, great. And for all of you, do you offer scholarships to international students? Can you raise your hand if you do? Okay, you all have scholarships for international students. That's great. So I assume you have all the relevant information on your websites and how to apply for your scholarships. Do you want to give us quick highlights, Raynor? What like big scholarship, small scholarship, merit-based?
Yeah, so I can touch on kind of three ones very quickly right now. But basically, for international students, there's a tuition reduction scholarship. So anyone who will be on a student visa when they're here, they automatically qualify for at least 20% off, and then depending on their admissions evaluation, it can scale to 50% or 100% for the first year. And then they can actually qualify again in subsequent years. I do have to caveat this saying that it'll be revised from 2027 onwards. So anyone who gets it in the first year might not necessarily have it, the entire way through their university career. We also have two program-specific scholarships. There's one for our dual degree program with the Australian National University, study in Japan and Australia. And when you physically go to Australia, you can get a total of, I believe it was 1 million Japanese yen, so a good lump sum there. And then there's another one specific for our joint degree program with American University when you physically go to Washington, D.C. In that joint degree program. But once again, we have those numbers all on our website there.
Perfect. Thank you. How about you, Joy? Do you have generous scholarships? How do students apply for them?
Sure. So basically speaking, at the time of application, for our programs, this goes to all students, regardless of, again, where you're from, what your socioeconomic status is, etc. All of our admission scholarships are going to be merit-based, so based on your GPA or your IB scores, your predicted scores, things like that. So we need 2 letters of recommendation, and you'll be automatically put into the pool for scholarship, assuming that you complete everything before that deadline. Again, all the processes on our website as well. We also have scholarships for once you get in as a student and complete 1 semester. That is both merit and need-based, so not only just based on your GPA, but also based like on how much you need it.
Perfect. Thank you. How about for Waseda, Han?
So actually, we have around 120 types of scholarships, which
Wow.
once uh, supported by not only our university, but also the Japanese government, also our great alumni network. So which make it that 32% of the international student will be able to receive some kind of scholarship, which is much more higher than the Japanese local student.
That's great. That's great. I want to move on to some questions about the courses that you offer. And these are just from the audience asking who's offering what type of courses. So we'll just do show of hand. Let me read through the courses. So do you have computer science? Raise your hand. Okay, perfect. Engineering? No engineering. Waseda has engineering. All right, let's see what other, anything related to artificial intelligence. You have courses related to artificial, more or less.
That'll be within our kind of computer science engineering program, yes.
Us as well. It's computer
Okay.
science, engineering, kind of broad.
Perfect. Let me see. So we had quite a few students that seem interested in AI programming type of courses. Let me see what other courses. Anything related to the medical field. Do you offer medicine to international students? I don't think so, right?
We have a psychological studies program, but it's not technically probably the medicine that this student is probably looking for.
Yeah.
But that's the closest thing we have.
Neurology, anyone? Neurology, no. Biology? No biology. Okay, let me see what other courses do we have questions about? Just scrolling down, there's a ton of questions. So I'm just trying to find marine biology. Do we have anyone offering marine biology? No. Architecture? No. Sports?
So if it's include the Japanese-based degree program, yes.
Okay.
Same answer here.
Yeah. So can you just go back and tell me what you're answering specifically about biology or architecture?
Architecture and sports science.
Okay. Architecture and sports science, you have this in Japanese. How about international relations? I think you all have good courses in international relations. Yes. Psychology, you mentioned you have this. Joy, do you have psychology? No. Retsumaken, Waseda?
No psychology focused program in English. I believe there is a psychology class within our College of Global Liberal Arts, but it's not a psychology focused program.
Okay. Media and journalism? Yes, no? Yes. And environmental sciences? Design, anything related to design? No. Oh, you have some design courses.
We
Okay,
have
there was a
general
flow.
art
Yeah.
major.
Okay, great. Sorry, there was really a flow of questions related to the courses that you offer. Let me just scroll down to see if we have any more questions related to majors. Thank you. I like the thumbs up while I'm reading through the questions. There's really a lot. Okay. Business. I'm sure you all have business
We have a
related.
selection of business classes available within international relations
Okay.
and some within liberal arts too.
Okay. Tourism. Okay. So it looks like we have quite a few options. Now, let's move on a little bit and talk about life as an international student in Japan. You were all international students in Japan. So I'll be asking you all different questions on different part of student life and student support. And I'll start with you, Raynor, if you can talk a little bit about orientation of, or, what happens when an international student arrives at Ritsumeikan for the first time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So first, when you move to a new country, there's a lot of, you could say, like administration you kind of have to do. And the university did an excellent job of guiding me, and does it for students still coming in. But through all the things you have to do to get set up in a new country, getting your government ID at the ward office, signing up for like national health insurance, your first bank account, all those kinds of things they have to, do when you get to a new country. Yeah, the university helping you with. And even in situations where, say, like, hopefully this doesn't happen, but like there's like a medical emergency and you need, interpretation support, say at a hospital. I've seen that happen for students. If you get mail that you can't read, which when you first get here will probably happen. Once again, there's help on campus for things like that.
Great, perfect. Moving on to kind of like student life, club societies, making friends. Joy, can you tell us a little bit about what that's like at Temple?
Sure. So we are quite a small school, especially compared to Ritsumeikan and Waseda. But regardless of that, we have lots of clubs. We call them clubs. They kind of act more as like circles in traditional Japanese universities. But basically anybody can join. Anybody can also start a club as well. Very Japanese high school of us, I like to call it. Basically, for us, you need 8 people, Temple University emails. You go to our Office of Student Services and Engagement, who will help you with anything non-academic. And then you can start your own club or association or organization.
Great, perfect. And now, Han, I want to ask you about kind of health support, mental health support. If a student is in Japan and doesn't feel right, do you offer support at Waseda?
Yeah, of course, we definitely have this kind of support as well because we have the place which is called the International Communication Center, which helps the international student to make very good connection with the local student. And of course, we also have the English-based support for the student about their mental health. And we also have the GS Center, which is the first LGBT community in Japan. So I think every student will find a place in Waseda.
Perfect. I have a question specifically about Muslim students studying in Japan. Do you offer any support specific to Muslim students, such as halal food option? How easy is it to find halal food, for example, on your respective campuses or in the cities where you're located? And I don't know, maybe we'll start with a show of hand. Do you have halal food on campus?
I don't sell food on campus.
Yeah. Do you know of halal food off campus near the university?
For the Sangenjaya area specifically, there's so many restaurants. I have not specifically looked for one, but I am sure there is one around the area.
Perfect. So it looks like there's good options for Muslim students in Japan as well. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about careers in Japan. I assume you all have career centers in your university to support students. What about getting a job if you don't really speak Japanese? If you know some Japanese, but you're not perfectly fluent. How does that work? Joy, do you want to go first?
Sure. So our career center actually won an award for our internship program. So we do have a strong internship program, which can help you get, that work experience going into getting a job in the future. Additionally, our career center will help you with your writing your CVs both in Japanese and in English and doing interview practice as well. Again, both in Japanese and English. So regardless of what level you know, our career advisors, they will help you, find jobs that work for you. They'll keep you in mind if they kind of see a job that may fit to your specifications, and help you, reach out and be like, hey, I found this job. You might want to try applying for it.
Great, perfect. Han, do you want to talk a little bit about you mentioned your students do really well after graduation. Where do they work? Do they stay in Japan or do they go to work in different destinations?
Well, actually, when I graduated Waseda, maybe around 10% of the international students, they decided to stay in Japan. But right now, the number has raised to around 40%. Because there's a lot more and more job opportunities for international students to work, especially in Tokyo. And even though you cannot speak Japanese very well, there will be a lot of place international companies, and some companies make their branch in Tokyo, so you will be able to work right there. So if you have the intention, then I think you will be able to find a job in Tokyo.
Great, perfect. Raynor, I wanted to ask, do you know anything about visa? Does Japan offer kind of like a stay back visa or internship visa? How complicated is it from a logistical point of view to work or do an internship in Japan?
Yeah. Um, so first of all, like our university, and I'm sure all of us do this too, but we do arrange, internships, during the university career. Your student visa itself, primarily extends for the period of, study as a student. But there are some measures you can take with the visa, for job hunting, shortly after university too. But I can also speak from, personal experience. Even if you're just like finding a job in Japan, how simple it can be to get a work visa here. Assuming you have a company that's willing to hire you, the visa itself is not a very large barrier. There's a specialist in humanities visa, which actually has a very large kind of range of jobs you can do within it. Um, and even like visa application fees in Japan are, I think, very cheap compared to say other countries. Like I recently renewed my visa actually. Um, I think my total renewal fee was, what was it again? I forget if it was 4,000 yen or 6,000 yen, but let's call it around $50, USD if I'm gonna kind of ballpark it right. Um, Very minimal, short renewal process that took, I think less than 3 weeks from me beginning the paperwork to, getting the actual visa, right?
Wow.
So if you get a job here, then the visa itself is not, it's not a big issue actually.
I can actually speak personal experience with the job hunting visa.
Yeah.
So after graduation, you can actually job hunt for up to a year past your graduation on this job hunting visa. However, you will have to show proof that you are actually job hunting, and that proof is basically printing out every communication you've had, submitting a resume to a company, and that is proof of applying to a company. Typically, a lot of sources will say apply to at least 5 companies a month, which is very, very doable. So, if you don't have a job by the time you have graduated, it's very possible to stay at least another year and graduate, so long as you have the means to do so.
Okay, perfect. That's great. That's great. We have a bit of a more like broader question and personal questions for all of you. Somebody is asking, what's the favorite part of each of your universities? So, Han, would you like to tell me what you like best about Waseda? You're on mute.
Well, I think the point I just mentioned is that the students are very attachment to the university. Not only the current student, but also the alumni. They love the Western University very much because they will be able to be involved into the growth and to the enhancement of the university. I think that's the most point I love about Waseda.
Great, perfect. How about you, Joey? What's your favorite aspect of Temple University?
Sure. So I actually have two things, if that's okay. One, our dean, the head of our school, is very, very student forward, so he's always pushing for new things. For example, our Kyoto campus. We just also acquired a new building that is non-traditional classrooms, a workout area that used to be a pachinko parlor, all about a minute away from our Tokyo location. And the other half of my question, I guess, my answer is the diversity of our student population. Each individual has such a unique story because everyone, has come from all over the world. Um, and it's just a really fun thing to do to just like, go up and talk to somebody and see how their experience differs from yours.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Joy. Raynor, what about you?
Yeah. So of course, the university does have, I think, five, very unique programs, including our dual and joint degree programs. But selfishly, I'm going to make this about myself, and I'm going to say that the student body actually. When I was a student, I came here and I found the local student body extremely welcoming to me. I was able to basically walk into a tennis circle, knowing at that time almost no Japanese and kind of barely getting functional at that time. And I found, the students in that circle extremely welcoming. Most of them themselves did not speak English. It didn't matter, and we worked with what we had. Um, but even at other areas around campus, I found, other local students, yeah, it's very kind of curious and interested in making, international friends. And they really made my own entry into Japan, I think very smooth and very special. So I think that's actually my real favorite thing about the university.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I have a question from a school counselor, and I'm gonna broaden it a bit to be relevant to students. But do you welcome school counselors? Do you organize fly-in? Do you welcome high school students on your campuses if they want to visit? We'll start with you again, Raynor. Do you counselor fly-ins?
So we do not have any, well, we don't currently have any counselor fly-in programs. However, we do frequently host, campus tours, both on an individual and group basis. So whether it's a counselor visiting themselves, a student visiting individually, or even, full classes, we welcome both on campus and do it quite frequently. So if you're in
Perfect.
the kind of the Kyoto, Osaka area and you'd like to visit, please reach out to the International Admissions Office, and I'm sure we can arrange something.
Perfect. Great. How about you, Han? Do you organize fly-ins? Do you welcome counselors, students to your campus?
Well, actually, we do not have like very specific program, like especially for the counselor, but we do welcome the student and the counselor to come to our campus anytime because the campus tour will be available and will be able to book online. Then you will be able to have a campus tour guided by the student. But if you don't have time, we also have the campus tour uh, app application. Then you can just download it and to listen when you are walking around the campus. That would be very convenient. But if the a kind of number of the high school students that are coming to our university, will be able to hold a very brief introduction about the Western University, or maybe ask some current student to share their experiences to the high students. So please come to us again.
Perfect. And Joy, how about you?
So we do have a counselor flying program. If you are interested, please email ac@tuj.temple.edu. This goes for your questions for students as well. And we can maybe get you to sign up for that. We have it every year. To add to that, we also have a high school summer program. So if you guys are interested in coming up for a week to Japan, get to see our Tokyo campus, get to see our Kyoto location as well. A great program. So long as you're in high school the following academic year, you can apply for that. We also have that um, every year as well. What else? We have open campus sessions once a month, every Sunday on campus physically. We do have that is both in English and in Japanese. We do also have online information sessions, which happen every like I believe quarterly. So lots and lots of options. And again, if you are interested in doing like a regular campus tour, like just with an individual group, you can also email again ac@tuj.temple.edu if that was slow enough as for the
Can
chat.
I ask you all actually to go in the chat and put any contact details you're happy to share, either a general email. I see that we have it for, yeah, thanks Raynor for already putting the information for Ritsumakin. So if you can add this, so we have we have Waseda, thank you, and Temple as well. So we have all relevant contact details here if you have any specific questions you'd like to ask our universities. So we are reaching the end of the session. We have 5 minutes left. We've answered quite a few questions, but there are some things we've maybe not talked about is, unique programs that each of your institution offer. We talked about the program just quickly, you know, raising your hand for what you have or what you don't have. But I'd like for each of you to tell me about, you know, key programs that you offer and any international option. You touched upon this briefly, Raynor, earlier, but for everybody, just highlight, you know, one program fully in Japan that you think is really unique to your institution, and then something a bit more international that students can do. And we'll start with you, Joy, if you don't mind.
Sure. So, one of our unique programs that we actually just started about a year ago is our tourism, hospitality, and event management program. So that program is taken straight from our main campus in Philadelphia, uh, Philadelphia, America, and we have since adapted it to, you know, the Asian market, the Japan market specifically. But you can take that anywhere, and the idea is to get shot into a management position. Lots of great internships there. But another thing I would like to highlight is that we also have an esports certificate program. So not necessarily playing video games, but actually studying like the industry of esports and like how it's such an up and coming industry, how to manage teams, events, things like that.
That's great. Just about international programs, can student maybe study on your US campus? What's the possibility of being even more international than studying in Japan?
Yeah, so you can study at any of our temple locations. So again, we have our main campus in Philadelphia. We also have a specific program for that where you can study up to a year at our main campus at our tuition rates in the Japan campus. So you can pay 11,000 US dollars for a year to study at main campus in America, which is unheard of. On top of that, you can also study at a Rome campus. You can also study at the Kyoto campus, come back to Tokyo, graduate. And we do have partners all over the world as well.
That's great. Thank you, Joy. Han, how about you? Your top programs at Waseda that you'd like to highlight and any international programs?
Well, the international programs, the schools that provide international programs are all located in our main campus. So if you come to Waseda to learn the English-based degree program, then you will learn in Shinjuku, very central Tokyo. And we provide, but not only social programs, social science program like political science, global economy, economic, social science, and liberal arts. But we also provide the engineering things like computer science, mechanic in engineering, and civil environment, and something like that. And we also have a very unique international program, which is named is the Japanese Learning Program. And a very small class. Every year we only have like around 10 students. They come together from all over the world to learn Japanese, do the Japanese study. That will be very interesting.
Great, thank you. And you, Raynor?
Yeah, so I'll highlight two programs here just very quickly. But first of all, there's our dual degree program with the Australian National University and the College of Global Liberal Arts. That's a very long name, so we call it GLA for short. But basically, you physically spend 3 years with us at our campus in Osaka, the Osaka Ibaraki campus. Physically, 1 year in Canberra in Australia at the Australian National University. From the second year onwards, you start taking courses from ANU Evenwell in Japan. And you graduate with 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Global Liberal Arts from Ritsumeikan University and a Bachelor of Asia Pacific Affairs from ANU. So it's a very unique program there. We also have the American University, Ritsumeikan University Joint Degree Program. So this is with American University in Washington, D.C. And it's basically 2 years at our campus in Kyoto, 2 years in Washington, D.C., but kind of bookended by your home university. It's a joint degree program, so you become a full-time student of both Ritsumeikan University and American University, full academic support from both. And then you graduate with a Bachelor of Global International Relations that's from both universities. So it's a Japanese degree and an American degree. We do have 3 other single degree programs. I won't list them out, don't worry. But within those, even though there's single degree programs with degrees just from Ritsumeikan University, there are study abroad opportunities too. We have study abroad opportunities with, I believe, over 160 institutions around the world. So there's lots of opportunities to, be international by coming to Japan and then double down on that internationality. Is that a word? Maybe lots of opportunities there. Yeah.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much. We have a last question here in the chat box. how accessible is healthcare and what costs should a student expect? Joy, do you want to take that up?
Sure. So, regardless, I believe all of our universities require national health insurance. So basically, the Japanese government will help you basically cover any costs that incur. A bill gets sent to your living address that will be um, filled out at our at the whatever ward office you're living in. Uh, and you pay maybe around, as a student, around $20 a month, which is very, very cheap. It might have
Great.
changed since, but when I was a student, it was about $20. There's like premiums for how much you earn as well. So if you're not earning enough to hit the next bracket, then you pay very, very low every month.
Great. And if you have that insurance and you need to go to the doctor, do you have to pay anything when you're at the doctor's? How much does
Sure,
that
you pay
cost?
30% of what you owe. And I'll give you an example. I actually tore a ligament in my knee about 2 years ago. For an MRI, I think I only paid like $30. So very,
Wow,
very cheap.
very affordable.
Yes.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much. I think we have reached the end of our session. So I really appreciate all three of you taking the time to join us today. Hopefully everybody enjoyed learning about studying in Japan.